Hi, everybody. Welcome again today to Capture One's webinar. My name is Alex Lopez. Oh, I'm getting some feedback. Just give me a second. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, my name is Alex Lopez. I'm a product training manager at Capture One, and today we have a portrait editing session with a very special guest, Mark Mann. So before bringing him in, I just wanted to do some housekeeping reminders. So if you're joining from our webinar platform, Big Marker, you can put in your questions on the Q&A tab over there. We'll be taking a look at them towards the end. Also, if you have any questions for Mark, feel free to put them in there. If you're distracted by the chat and you want to hide it out, you just have to select that option on the top right corner, and then you will be good to go. So without further ado, let's bring in our guest. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a sunny day in New York City, and it's good. How are you?
Doing great. It's always good to see the sun in New York, especially after this very weird start of the summer. So thank you so much for joining today. We're so happy to have you. You're a super talented photographer with an amazing career, so we are so lucky to have you here.
It's funny. There's been a couple of shifts and shifts in my and things that like points in your career that you can go. This changed when this happened. This changed. Some of it's to do with cameras. Some of it's to do with lenses. Some of it's to do with personal experience. But I have to say that when Capture One became a thing that I used every day, it was one of the seismic shifts in my career. So I'm super grateful to Capture One.
Well, we are honored to hear that, and we'll be talking more about that a little bit more into the webinar. But just to start, let's not assume that everybody knows who we are. So I wanted to start by asking you some questions about who are you, who is Mark Mann, and how did you start in photography?
I'm a photographer. I've been making a living as a photographer in New York City for almost 30 years. I primarily shoot portraits. For some reason that is unbeknown to me, and I've never really figured it out, I seem to be known for photographing celebrities. I've photographed a lot of celebrities, even though I've probably photographed more non-celebrities, but obviously the ones that become more apparent as celebrities. Um, I think after 30 years, I'm beginning to get a little bit of the hang of things. And hopefully after another 30, I'll actually know what I'm doing as a photographer. No, it's a funny thing, photography, because every day you learn something, and all you do is learn how much more there is to learn. So I'm learning every day. I'm trying to stay current and stay relevant and keep up with technology. It's hard for us old guys. So, but yeah, I primarily photograph people, and a lot of them are very well known.
Yeah, if someone has taken a look in your portfolio, they know what you're talking about. You pretty much have everyone there. Like your website is like a repository of the whole 20th and 21st century culture.
But you're missing.
Sorry?
You're missing. I don't have your picture.
Not yet. Hopefully one day.
I hope
So,
so.
did you always know you wanted to be a photographer, or how did it start?
You know, there's two parts to this story, and I'm sorry if anybody's heard them before, but the short answer is no. I wanted to. I was quite good at art. I wasn't very good in school academically. Really, I was passable, but it wasn't. But I wasn't really. I didn't really have any passions in academics, and art was something that kind of came easy to me. And when I was in the year before my final year of school, I had some friends that were traveling to the Edinburgh Festival from north from Manchester, and I decided that I was going to go from Glasgow over to Edinburgh to meet up with them for the weekend. And I was pretty young. I was probably 16. I'd done some stuff by myself. It was like one of the first weekends I was kind of going away with my friends. Get on the train early in the morning and
Oh, we
sitting there.
lost your sound there for a bit.
Still there? Can you hear me?
We lost your sound there for a bit.
Oh, what about now?
Okay,
Can
let's try now. Let's see.
you-
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's this absolutely beautiful woman, older woman, sitting on the train. She must have been at least 18. I mean, you know, she's standing. Well, I'm going to sit beside her. Up there. And I asked her what she was doing with her life, and we were talking. She told me she studied photography at Manchester Polytechnic. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to study photography at Manchester Polytechnic. So I came home from the weekend, and I said to my art teacher, Mr. Marshall, who was one of my friends today, and I said, do we have a dark room? Do we have photography? He's like, yeah, we have a dark room at school. Come on, I'll show you. And he literally took me in, and we didn't have any negatives, but he took my glasses, and he took some larger and put some photo paper, and we put it through the developer. And I just remember watching this image appear, and it was an alchemy. I was completely, you know,
Sorry, Mark. I think there's a problem with your microphone. Is it possible that you switch to headphones, maybe?
yeah, I can.
Okay, let's give him a second.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so let's just wait for Mark a little bit. We're trying to fix the issue with the sound so that you can all hear him better. So just give us 1 second and he'll be right back. Okay, let's try now.
The microphone.
Yeah, it's they're telling me that it's a bit choppy on your end.
What do you think? And headphones, you think will help?
Let's try that. Let's see what happens. Okay, can you talk?
I can talk now. Is that better?
It seems a bit better. Let's try to go on and let's see how people feel about it.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Anyway, I,
Please
I,
go on.
so this experience of watching something coming up on the developing tray in the darkroom just blew my mind. And I came home and my dad had a little compact camera, and I said, "Hey, can I borrow that? I'm going to take some photos." And that was really the beginning of just falling in love with photography. And I did go on to Manchester Polytechnic to study photography. And this young lady, although there was never anything romantic, is still my friend today. So that was really it. So I kind of knew I wanted to do something in the arts or art, and photography just seemed to be a journey, and it still is. And it's been fascinating, and I could never have hoped for a better passion for the last 30 years. It's just I just feel so fortunate to be involved with it and to be part of it and to be, to make photographs is I couldn't be more grateful.
I think it's amazing because that's a feeling that is relatable to me and probably to a lot of people who are hearing us today. And it's amazing that photography is this just beautiful thing that regardless on if you are a professional or a hobbyist or whatever part of your career or not career you're in, you always feel so grateful to have that in your life. At least I do feel like that. And I do also
Uh,
relate to the feeling on the dark room, like the first time that you see this coming up and it just looks like magic.
Yeah, and it's just and I've tried to quantify it so many times. What is it about the still image? And I think, I try not to spend so much time scrolling these days, looking at Instagram or whatever. But I do find myself because uh, I even watching people who, you know, because photography is so accessible to everybody now with iPhones and cameras, and people are creating these people who maybe have not have the skill set to the technical skill set, but have the two things that really matter in photography, like composition and light. And they make these photos of things that I've never seen or I haven't been there. And I so much enjoy looking at what other people are creating, and how people see. And I think you can tell a lot about a person by how they make a photograph. And I think it's a real insight to who you are. And it's just this fraction of a second that just, you've seen it and you've pressed that button at that moment. And why did you press it? And what did you see? And what were you hoping to capture? And I think I'll find that fascinating forever. It's just blows my mind.
Definitely. And you touch about a topic that is really hot these days, which is the topic of the interaction between photography, like the art part of photography, and technology. Obviously, technology is an inherent part of photography. Whatever technology we're talking about, you've lived through it all basically. So you started in the analog days, then I guess you were working with the first digital cameras. Then these days, there's a lot going on with the AI features and the AI image creators and all of this. So it's definitely a journey that it will be very interesting to live through. But if you can give us your perspective on how you've lived through all of these technology changes and how they affected maybe the way that you shoot.
Definitely, they're all tools. They're all tools. Listen, I there's something very, very special about shooting film for me because it's where I started. It was what photography was at that point. And then, people will say, "Oh, you don't shoot film. You're not a real photographer." What are you talking about? Listen, when photography started, people were shooting on wet plate. It wasn't film. So, film is modern relatively to photography. So there's just changes, and I think what I try and think about is, you have a lens, and then you have this gooey substance at the back, whether it's film, whether it's a sensor, whether it's a piece of glass, whether it's a Polaroid, whatever it is that captures the light, and then somehow you turn what you capture into a photograph. And whatever medium that you are comfortable in working in or want to work in is the one that you should work in. And I would strongly advise people that only shoot film to shoot some digital. For you guys or for anybody out there that only shoots digital, try shooting some film. I think one of my favorite comments is photography, when you break it down, is 40%, light, 40% composition, and 20% luck. And that luck can happen from whatever you're shooting. Yeah, we used to shoot film, and there was something really nice about shooting film because, you had references, you had Polaroids, you could take a Polaroid image and you would kind of see what your light would be like and your composition would be like, but that was it. There were, if you had the best Polaroid in the world and you go, yeah, I got it, but you don't know if you had it on film. So, but what was nice about that is you would send your film to the lab and, you would have 24 hours or maybe 48 hours, depending on if you were shooting negative or transparency, before you got your pictures back, right? So you had some breathing space. You had some time to step back from your job and to think about, what you'd shot. And then by the time you got these contact sheets back, you'd had some processing time. Which was great, but also it was absolute panic stations because you didn't know if you had it or not. Right? So, oh God, did I get it? I shot 400 rolls of film. I don't know if I had it. Client doesn't know I had it. So that was part of it. And then, this ability of digital photography and being able to see something instantly. And for me, it was a bit of a nightmare to start because not only can I see it, but everybody else can see it. Unless that was, oh my God, how can you see that? It's a raw image, it's not finished. I mean, you've got to think about like the earliest tethering. You didn't have these beautiful Capture One color controls and contrast controls. All you could see was like basically the image, and it was like, oh, it was horrible. The color was horrible. It was terrible. So, that was a bit shocking. And also, your subject could actually see what you shot. And you didn't want to hide it for them because if you hide it from them, they're like, why are you hiding this? Well, is it so bad that you can't show it to me? So, that was an interesting, leap into that. And then, as I say, like programs like Capture One now allow you to just like make a masterpiece in 45 seconds on your computer. And, this is final product, it looks fantastic and that's amazing. And you're very happy to show it off. I think AI is going to be really, really interesting. I, you know, I listen, I've been messing with it. I subscribed to a couple of things. I made some art in Midjourney, and it's absolute crap. Now, whether it's crap because I don't know what I'm doing or whatever, or it's just crap, it's just crap. Um, However, you know, I think I know you guys. I was being shown some early stuff about being able to change backgrounds and and I think all of these are just tools. Listen, I've been able to change a background in Photoshop for years, but it takes me hours and hours and hours. If you guys can do it in a way that's bada bing, that's a fantastic tool for me. So I'm excited about these concepts of AI. But the bottom line is, I still want to make my photographs. So I just think it's going to be a tool. And I think, youngsters today, like people like my son, who's 10 years old, don't buy any bullshit. I mean, they know what it is. Or say I died, So I, it's just going to be, it's an exciting tool, and I think it's going to have a lot of benefits. But I'm not scared of it, really. I don't think. Spoke too soon.
It's really a mystery what's going to happen. The truth
Yeah.
is that because you lived through all of this experience that you described before, like from doing Polaroids and shooting film and leaving the set without knowing whether you had the shot or not. Like today, we are like at the exact opposite of the spectrum where even us in Capture One, like the tools we are creating and their past release, it's been all about facilitating collaboration, and so that everybody who is on set, or even in big shoots with like multiple people, when someone can be sometimes there can be even like 20, 30, 40 people on set, so that everybody can like see what's going on and everybody can participate in whatever is their field of expertise, so that the makeup artist can collaborate and like everyone can collaborate.
If only they would stick to collaborating in the fields of expertise, it'd be a lot easier because, when you have the fashion stylist telling you where to put the light and,
Well,
like,
in an ideal world, you see.
no, you're absolutely right. It's really, really important. And, it's important now because we don't have, to turnarounds have got faster, things have got faster. We need to move at faster paces. So we don't have the error time anymore. So if I'm doing something and the stylist who maybe, let's say the creative director, who's the one that's going to go to eventually, is in a different country. And with Capture One, I can show them what's going on that day. If they have a problem, I can hear about it right there and then and fix it, and everybody be happy. Because, there's certain jobs which are just commercial jobs. The client, you've got to please the client. The client's got to get what they want. And that was difficult back in the day. I remember, as we were talking about, shooting Polaroid, sending the Polaroid by messenger up to a creative director in Midtown New York who didn't have time to come down to his shoot, waiting an hour and a half for him to call and go, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that, and carrying on with their day. So tools that can make that faster, like, hey, what do you think of this? And then, if they say, yeah, I love it, then, 3 days later, you can't say, oh, I don't like the color of that new work. You saw it. You could have told me then. Right. So I think all these things are definitely making life easier
No,
for us
definitely
and
things
photographers.
things are going at a different pace, which is definitely interesting. And I wanted to ask you a couple more things about your work with Capture One specifically. So, as you described before, it was, as you said, one of the things that kind of was like a leap in your work. And so, I also wanted to ask you, do you usually operate with Capture One yourself, or like, do you have a digital tech or a photo assistant who does that for you on set? Because I know that you do a fair amount of things on Capture One, and I know that you do a lot of your editing there, but like I wanted to know if you have someone else working with you.
I do. The only reason I do anything by myself, well, I'm going to tell you folks at home a true story about Capture One. I definitely was very much like, oh God, I'm so scared of this program. It's crazy. I don't want to learn anything. And like digital text would do everything and whatever, and I never bothered. And then I got like, guys, I gotta learn to do this. So, I phoned a friend, and my friend introduced me to you. And you literally came over, and I remember you came over for maybe couple of hours. And your approach, which I think is the Capture One approach, was so like, what do you want to do in Capture One? not like this is what Capture does, but what do you want to do? I said, I want to get my images on the screen. I want to make them pretty for my clients to look at, and I want to be able to walk away and let the technology do its thing and me be creative. And you showed me, I think, within an hour how to set up, and from then on, I've been very much like, yeah, I can do this myself.
It can be a little bit intimidating, like, like I've been doing these webinars and that for a long time. So I think like people get easily intimidated because like I get it. You open up the interface, it's a lot. There's a lot of tools, there's a lot of drop-down menus, there's a lot of like three dot icons, and you click on them and it gives you like a sub-menu of a sub-menu, and like I get it, it's a lot, but don't try to think that you need to master it all. Don't try to think that you need to know what all the tools do. You really don't. Just try to, first of all, understand what it is that you want to achieve, and then let's look for the specific materials like support articles or videos or webinars or whatnot. We offer a lot of things on our support resource hub. So David, my colleague, is on the chat, so maybe he can paste the address if you would like all to take a look. But yeah, I think it's more about trying to understand what you want to do and then trying to look for the right process there to make that happen in Capture One.
100%. And I think also what you have to remember is like, capturing in Capture One is this, there's only one bit of the journey that's scary, and that's when you've got people looking at your pictures on set. Afterwards, you can, non-destructively, go in and play around and, for hours, like as you would do to get this right after the fact where it's just you in your pajamas and you don't have to worry about people on set. So I think fundamentally, if you're starting out, all you got to do is get a reasonable representation of what you want to do onto the image for your clients to see. And then, to spend time working with all the sliding, everything we say, to perfect it. But I don't think that, as I say, that's something that you can spend as much time by yourself learning as you want without having to have that scary of like somebody watching it or looking at it. And it's funny. I was always like, well, I'll never use Capture One for this, and I was like, well, I'm using Capture One for that because it just for me it makes my life much easier. If I've got a monitor on set that is beautifully color calibrated. And if I'm sitting with my client and we manage to adjust the color to exactly where it wants to be, then yeah, I got it. I know you got it. I'm not taking it into another program to like try and reproduce from a raw file the same thing. I got it. Maybe certainly retouching might be done in Photoshop, but usually I'm working from a TIFF from Capture One now. I'm not working even from the raw. Capture One does such a great job at converting raw files to where you want to be. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot more myself. Sometimes just because of the job, and I have to schmooze with clients, or I'm expected to have a digital tech. I'll have a digital tech. But for me, I really enjoy the hands-on experience of doing everything. Sometimes the job doesn't allow it. But I'll stand over the digital tech shoulder going, 5 more points of saturation, 2 more points of contrast.
It's all about the show as well sometimes, right? But
Is that all she's got, Captain?
so if one thing I love about your work, and I'm sure that's many of the people watching as well, is how you do color and how you have like a consistent but very particular look on your images, like in the way that if I go through your website and your portfolio, I can actually see some things in common. And I would love for you to show us a session and to show us what you do on your files. And I know that everybody will be crazy to see this. So if you agree, let's share your screen and you can walk us through your process. Okay.
So can you see that okay?
Yeah, I think everybody can see that.
So, I mean, let's start here. We should go to the raw file here. So I think that's everything completely reset. So, the first thing I'm going to do, and, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my adjustment layer. And I am going to go, you can just literally start layers and masks I'm not going to use, brushes I'm not going to use, start adjustments I'm going to use, but I'm probably going to start with a white balance. I'm just going to white balance off this gray background, and that's going to get me a little closer to what my white balance should be. If I probably got a gray card shot at the beginning of this set, but just I'm just going to white balance there. I think what's kind of one of the things that's kind of important is your exposure. So try and get it kind of reasonably correct to start with. So this exposure you can see on the histogram is not too bad. So the next thing I'm going to do, jump down a little bit to curves. Now you have a contrast slider here, which you can play with. I like to actually do that in curves instead of on the contrast slider there. Set that back to 0. Right. It's a little sticky. Anyway, so what I would do is usually a little bit of an S curve here. So I'm just going to pull down my shadows a little bit, and then I'm going to pop up my highlights a little bit. And obviously, when you add contrast, you add saturation. So I'm just going to take down my saturation a little bit next. Brightness, I think the brightness looks fine. I'm not going to mess with brightness. I don't really work in levels very much. Clarity is a polarizer. I'm not going to touch it, but you certainly can pop the clarity a bit if you want. There you go. It's a bit of a, I don't know. It's a bit of a, people are like, there, too much clarity. I don't think you need too much clarity. If you expose your image right, you shouldn't need that much clarity. So I'll keep that at 0. I love vignetting, so I'm always going to add a little bit of a vignette here. And then that's pretty much a starting point for me. High dynamic range is very interesting. And if I'm using it, then what I'm usually going to do is I'm going to try and take down my highlights a little bit and pop up my shadows just to bring some detail back in the hair. And then once I've got to there, I'm going to kind of look at it as kind of a start again. I think this could do a little more contrast. So I'm going to go back into my contrast curve. Oops, going too much. So you're not saying anything.
Mark, there was a relevant question on the chat that I wanted to pass on to you. So someone is asking, what about using the Luma curve to avoid the saturation boost? Is that something that you usually do?
But I should. Absolutely. It never used to exist, so I'm not very good at it, but absolutely. I know they've just brought it into raw capture, but yes, absolutely. You should definitely do that. I'm just so used to going from this curve to going up to the saturation here. And I don't know, I seem to like the saturation slider a little bit better than I like the Luma slider, even though it does a similar thing. But yes, absolutely, either way. And that's kind of, that would be my starting point. I mean, that's pretty much where I want to be. And then, even though this is kind of, the temperature's fine, I could probably go back in and pop a little bit more warmth into the shot. And then obviously, another thing which I absolutely adore is just being able to super quick make that into a black and white image. And being able to then work with, the skin tones, like the reds are usually in the skin and the yellows in the skin to kind of, to make that pretty. You don't really do so much for the greens. But, just messing with these yellows and the reds to kind of make that pop. And that's
sorry, is this always the order that you usually apply adjustments?
yes.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not saying that it's wrong or anything. I'm just asking for everybody to understand what you're doing. I do have my methods of going through adjustments, which is actually pretty similar to yours. And the only thing that I do differently is I do it on a background layer so that I can have an opacity control and that I
Oh,
so that I
that's
can
really
keep
interesting.
separate. Yes.
Ah,
So
that's
what
really
I
interesting.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting because then I like to have a layer for like contrast and curves and all of that, and then to have a separate one for colors. So then if I want to go back to an edit at a certain point and decide, oh, I went too far a little bit with color, but contrast is actually fine, so that I don't have to dive into the specific adjustments to tweak
Well,
everything. I just can do the opacity control.
I think, Alex, when you come over to teach me my next lesson, that we could probably get into that. But as I say, and I think it's really important to realize this, that what I'm doing now is primarily for getting this to look good on set for my client to go, wow, this looks great. And certainly as when after a shoot or after we finish, to bring this into Photoshop, where I usually, I'll do fix some pixels and stuff and do some curved layers. It's a time when maybe I'd really get into it to pop some of these stuff. But for me, in that 45 seconds or 2 minutes, however long it took, to get something that looks like that, where I know that my client's going to go, wow, that looks great. We can carry on and we can shoot. Then I think that's where I feel I need to be, certainly on set.
Of course. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about this shoot? What is this that we're seeing?
Oh, this was fun. So I had a little gallery show the other night, and I thought it would be fun to do a little photo booth. So basically, anybody that wanted, that's my mother-in-law.
Oh, nice.
Anybody that wanted could sit and just, have a picture taken. And a lot of the pictures in the gallery show were lit with the ring light. So it was kind of fun to just have people sit and to have a portrait taken. Now the reason they're all in black and white is because I had some mixed light. I had a bit of a mixed lighting situation, and as you can see when I turn off when I do like a global reset, you can see that I had some mixed lighting in here. And I thought, well, oh God, it's better. I'm just gonna have to show these in black and white instead of trying to fix the mixed lighting. So this was great. And I took 1,000 photos that night, and I took, it was really brilliant to be able to for people to be able to go, for me to be sitting taking photos, and for me to be able to just swing the monitor and go, hey, look how great you look. Isn't this beautiful? And I think when you can do that and you have something to back you up that can inspire confidence, you see, I think one of the problems in photography or you as a photographer is as soon as you think there's a problem, whatever that problem is, whether it's lighting, whether it's styling, whatever it is, the person you're photographing is going to think it's them, right? So it's the Mark Mann school of show no fear. And however bad that first picture is, to be able to go, wow, you look great, and to be able to show them that and to be able to inspire that confidence, then you can see, like, as the session moves on, then you can see people's confidence building because they can actually see that, oh, they look quite good. And it's not just, I've got no idea what this guy's doing. And that's helped me a lot in being able to capture portraits.
I
So
think that
it's,
you just made a very interesting point about when people don't look good, they're gonna think it's them. Like, I guess we would all think it's us. Trust and insecurities and things like that. And one thing I like about your work is that it feels very intimate, and I've noticed that many times you are, at least the crop is very close to people, and I wonder, are you actually that close to people? I see that you're also using a longer lens, like a 90 millimeter, but how do you create this atmosphere of trust? I guess I don't think that you can take these portraits unless you're not, the people who you are photographing are not confident with you. How do you go about this?
let
How do
me
you build this
let me show you.
trust?
I'm gonna grab a camera from behind me. One sec.
Okay. I can also see that we have some more questions coming in. So while Mark does that, I wanted to take one of them from Mandy, who is asking, is there a way to add black and white all at once to the whole set? And the answer is yes, there's different ways to do that. the way to do this after the shoot would be just to use the copy and apply settings on the top right corner of the Capture One interface. Yes, thank you, Mark. The other way, which is what I guess Mark did here, is when you're shooting tethered into Capture One, there is an option by default which will grab all of the adjustments from your last picture that you shot, and it's going to bring them on to the next captures as they come in. So basically, you just need to like shoot a couple photos, adjust the last one of them, and then your preset with the black and white and the contrast and the curves and whatever tools you want to add there. And then as you keep shooting, all of those adjustments will be applied consistently to all the next shots. So that's one of the most used features in Capture One in Studio One portrait sets.
Yeah, it's fantastic because everything is coming in the same. And I think there's some AI stuff that will even help you now with if your exposure is a bit wrong, it will, is there not an AI feature that somebody's telling me about that will help your exposure remain consistent throughout your shoot?
Yeah, there is a tool called Smart Adjustments that does that for you. So basically, if you have any white balance or exposure changes across the shoot because of different reasons, this tool is mostly used typically in outdoor shoots where you have also like a mix of natural light, an artificial light, or you have just natural light and it's changing constantly, so that you don't have to do all of that work to equalize it, which is time consuming and not funny at all. So that you can focus on the creative part and not just the going through 700 photos trying to make them all look the same exposure-wise. You know, that's why I like the AI tools in Capture One, because they're not trying to do the creative decisions for you. They're just helping you with whatever is very boring and very systematic to do.
Yeah. But we were talking about that. It's a really interesting question. I mean, I kind of worked it down to an art that I'm going to look into the camera here. So what I'll basically do is I will never just bring my camera up to my eye and put it in your face, because that kind of freaks people out. But I will start a conversation with you, and I'll ask you how your day's going and what's happening in your day and what you're having for lunch and all these things. And then slowly I'll start to bring the camera closer to my face. And then, you know, at some point I might even do that, but I won't take any pictures. So by the time that I'm actually here, you and I are in a conversation and it doesn't feel awkward. And I'm going to keep talking to you through the conversation, and I'm going to keep talking and not stop. And my idea is that I'm like 30 photos in before you've even realized that I've taken a picture. And that's one technique that I use quite often to take pictures and, you know, stop and listen. And I think that's one way to try and stop the camera being this big thing in your face. And, you know, it's all of these portraits there's a conversation going on, you know. I mean, some people maybe not so much, but, you know, everything here is like, you know, I've caused a reaction there. You can see that there's a conversation. So I've taken that photo to get that photo, right? And then that photo. And then I've said something to get that photo. They're not just mugging for me. They're you know, some are more, you know, like there's something going on there. I've said something to make that happen. And I think when you're shooting portraiture, some people have just got game face and don't, you know, do anything different. Some people are really susceptible, and you can say something and you can see that, you know, this is built up, and I've said, don't smile, you know, like that, waiting for the smile, or then you say something funny, or, you know, and then you get these kind of reactions. And I think it's just literally about, you know, working with your subject to create a situation. I love this series because I can't remember what I said, but all of a sudden brain just lost it. And, you know, I just love this series of that little series of photos. And I think it's important as a photographer to make sure that you are making something happen when you take photos. You know, you have to put your stamp. It's just like otherwise you're just documenting and you're almost voyeuristic. But with me, it's a conversation. It's something I'm trying to provoke something. I'm trying to provoke an authentic reaction to me. And what I love about doing that is it's something you can practice when you don't have a camera. Like, you know, I go into a store to buy a Diet Coke, and I say, don't smile, don't smile. You know, like that, waiting for the smile, or then you say something funny, or, you know, and then you get these kind of reactions. And I think it's just literally about, you know, working with your subject to create a situation. And I think it's important as a photographer to make sure that you are making something happen when you take photos. You know, I mean, I'm not, you have to put I'm going to try and make that guy react or that woman react. Now, sometimes they find me very funny. Sometimes they think who's this crazy guy, get out of my store. But it's always trying to make that reaction and make every interaction you have with a human being. I'm not going to be like spiritual and say meaningful, not like that, but just something. And I find that if you can do that and you can do that in your everyday life, it seems to make life a little smoother as well. In the deli across the street from me in New York City, a really lovely woman that owns a deli and runs a deli, and she really does not speak much English. And I certainly don't speak any Cantonese. So, the two of them, but she's my buddy, you know what I mean? But we've got to make these things happen. And I'd love to photograph her, because every time I go in and I'll say something funny about the chocolate bar or the Diet Coke, and I see these brilliant facial reactions, I think, wow, it should be so great to photograph. So I think a lot of being a photographer or a portrait photographer is the communication between you and whoever you are. Sorry, I kind of went off track there, but I think that's a big part of it. But to bring that back into Capture One for the client to be able to see that, for the talent to be able to see that and to see these progressions and to explain to them what you're doing, as I say, has been a real game changer. Super quick, I did a book last year on dancers in New York City, and I'm not going to go into it. It's a lovely book. You find it if you want. But the bottom line is, I was photographing some of the, it came out left field, but some of the best dancers in the world in my studio during the pandemic. The book came out last year. Now, I knew about as much about ballet as I know about nuclear physics. I mean, I knew nothing. And I have these incredible ballet dancers, and they're perfectionists, beyond perfectionists. So they were trusting me to take the photo, and they were trusting me to take their photos in movement. And for me to be able to say, hey, stop a sec, come over here, and to look at the screen, and me to be able to go through the images, and then to be, oh, my hand's just a little bit off there, my finger should be that way. Of such a trust that, listen, these are great, let's do it again. And then they would come back again and say, oh, I love my foot like that. That's great. I love that one. Okay, and let's mark that one. That's the one we're going to work with. So for something that when I was in a situation where I didn't know what I knew if the composition was good, but I didn't know if it was good, bad, or indifferent, to be able to bring them over and show them that, wow, the big screen, how they looked through Tether One was just Capture One was phenomenal and really helped make the book what it was.
Well, so you tap into another interesting thing, which is the experience that people who are with you on set have when they need to see what's going on. And I wanted to show you one of the new features that we released about a month ago, because I don't know if you were aware of that, but now we released some new client viewers, and I thought it may be useful for your work. So we can have like a mini online session while we share with the rest of the people, if you agree.
Yeah, no, my brain, you see, my Capture One is in my bookshelf for Capture One is like here. So something will fall off here to something new to go in. So I might forget how to set up a
Have some
table.
trust.
Yeah.
You should have some trust in yourself. Okay, so I have just here some shots from a show some months ago, and I just wanted to show you how to set up the client viewer. So it used to be the case that you could create a secondary viewer in Capture One, but it had very limited options in the way that it would always share whatever your selection is. So if you go through these, basically your client is always going to be able to see what you are browsing at the moment, but now it works differently. So we now have here on window, we have these client viewers, and you can set up to 3 client viewers, and there's different options here. So for example, you can pin a selected photo. So I could simply have this one here, and you can send whatever image you want. Say for example, my client wants to see this one, I can send this one. Then now they want to review a different one in the selection. So you just go here and right click and then just pin to, oh, sorry, this should be A. Yes, so now that's pinned there. So that's a possibility. You can just send a single shot. You can set up a second one. Let's do B, that just follows the selected. So this one would work exactly as the traditional viewer would do, just like following whatever it is that you're browsing. And there is even a third option, which I think is really cool, which is the one that follows capture. So in this case, you can only see this random shot, which was like the last capture that I took at a random demo that I don't even remember. You cannot see anything going on here because I'm not currently shooting tethered, but this one would update as you shoot tethered. So it's really interesting because you can set them up, all three of them simultaneously, and you can even have them all in a secondary monitor for your client, and then they can see, oh, this is the one that we prefer so far. This is why we put a green tag. So that's the hero so far.
Oh, so wait, so they can they actually mark the photos as you go, as they go?
No, this one is not for collaboration. This one is just for V1. But the other thing that we released simultaneously to this is Capture One Live for Studio, which is a rebuild of the old Capture Pilot iPad application.
Yeah, I've been using that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Capture One Live for Studio is a rebuild, like a redesign of Capture Pilot, which is more modern, has a more modern interface, and it's more stable in general. So that would be the way for them to collaborate. It's a super simple iPad app. You just have to download it. It's free. And then it's free when you have like the studio version. And then you just connect the Capture One session from the computer and the iPad to the same network, and you can trigger it, and then they are also able to give feedback and tag and rate and all of that. But
which is fantastic, which is really important. Which is really good.
It really is. So the more tools we have and the more simple they are to use, of course, the best. So this one, the viewers, it will be really like the most simple way to do this. And I really like that you can keep the three of them so that there's a lot of information. So here you can see, oh, this is a hero. This is the one we are browsing right now. And here you could see whatever is coming up next while you're capturing. So I think to have all of these options is fantastic. And that's why I wanted to show you this tool.
Oh, it's great. Something which I use all the time, Alex, is I finish shooting and I will just load the session up, so I can look at it at home using the oh God, I don't even know what it's called. It's like the cloud.
Oh yeah, Capture One Live.
Yeah, so basically, it's wonderful that two things about shooting tethered, folks, is number one, I set it up in such a way that I shoot, obviously the images are going to my hard drive, and then I have another software running, like I use whatever, it doesn't matter, but another software that's copying it immediately to a hard drive, and then that hard drive is hooked to the cloud. So I'm basically backing up as I'm shooting, which is great. But at the end, but while I'm shooting, all these pictures of the JPEGs are going to the Capture One Live. What's it called? Sorry, Sarah?
Yes, Capture One Live.
Capture One Live. So basically, I can leave the studio at the end of the night. By the time I get home, I can open up a web browser or my iPad or whatever and look at my photos without having to copy anything. I can make some marks. I can go, yeah, I like that one. I like that one. So when I go in the next day, if I feel like it, I've already got my selects made, and I can send it to a client or send it to 2 or 3 people. And it's just something which is happening in real time. So it's not more time at the end of the shoot to do stuff, which is really, really cool.
No, I do love Capture One Live, and it's great when you're working with people who are not necessarily on set or not even in the same city. Like, more and more, we're working with people who are in other cities, in other countries. So I really love Capture One Live as a tool, and I also love the comment feature. So I'm just going to do like a quick recap for people watching.
Please do, because it's great.
For the collaboration tools, because there's so many right now, and it can get a little bit confusing. So let's do like a sum up of all of those. So we had Capture Pilot in the past, which was the staple, like the first iPad app that was released for this. That guy was really useful. It became a little bit old, so we are kind of like allowing it to, we're not discontinuing it, by the way. It's still an option to use if you're familiar with that. So, but that's like the older collaboration tool. Then we released Capture One Live, which is the one that Mark was talking about, which is cloud-based. And what it does, it's basically just set it up the moment that you start the session. And as you shoot, the previews that Capture One is generating, they are being uploaded to a cloud. And any of your clients or collaborators can access that session from any device from any browser just with a link. You can invite them via email as well, and then they are able to review and collaborate real time, even with comments. So that would be the second tool. Then we have Live for Studio, which is the, as I said, kind of the Capture Pilot redesign, which is good for local collaboration. Because the thing with Capture One Live for Studio is that both devices need to be on the same network. So you have the computer that is running the Capture One session, and then you have the iPad, and both these devices need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. But it's really stable, super fast as well. So that would be the differences between all of these three different collaboration tools. Just for you to recap, it's great to have so many options, and then each one of you can pick whatever works best for any given situation. We're not gonna demo all of these tools today because we have a lot of already resources, tutorials, and webinars where we do that. So if you're interested to hear more of that, I would recommend you to browse our YouTube channel or our resource hub, where you can find a lot of information about that. So yeah, I just wanted to do that easy recap for all of that, for people who don't get lost.
It's I think what Capture One does as a company, and I'm going to be very transparent. I actually had a really lovely meeting with Raphael, your CEO, a few weeks ago, and he very much confirmed to me that what I felt is that you're really listening to what the photographers are saying. It's not like somebody in Capture One has this cool idea, goes, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we did this?" And the photographers are like, "Yeah, that's great, but absolutely useless to me." I think a lot of what you're doing and what the plans for the future are coming from like, "Hey, Mark, what do you need or what do you want?" As I see the new features come in, I'm usually a little slow on new features, but as I see them come in, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's going to be useful." Or more often than not, I'll say I'll never use that, and then about 2 weeks later, I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I could live without this." So that's what I find very, very, impressive about Capture One and the way it works. But it's a game changer to Tether. It's a game changer. It's just like, why put yourself in a position that somebody can tell you they don't like something after the fact when they've seen it in front of them, or you've sent them a link and they're sitting in a different country and you can get the feedback. And the bottom line for us photographers is to finish the job, for everybody to be happy, to get paid, and to get another job. And any tool that you can get that help you do that is definitely worth the investment and worth. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
So if I was, I heard something about some new tutorial classes.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I also wanted to let
I'm
everybody
excited.
know. Yes, my colleague David Grover, which you're of course familiar with through the YouTube channel, and we partner up with George Brooks, very, very famous and respected digital tech out of LA. And we have been working for months on establishing a new course for digital teching. It's basically going to be aimed for recent graduates of photography, students, and whoever basically has an interest in starting digiteching as a career or as a stepping stone maybe to be a photographer, or whoever just wants to know more of Capture One and the whole tethering and technical part behind it, which is very good to know in general for your life. It's a very good tool to have, but also, as I said, it can get you jobs. So we have been working on this for a lot of months, and we're very close to releasing it. I can't really disclose much more right now, but it's going to be coming very soon. So if any of you out there is looking into that or has considered digiteching, or even like people who have like experience for years, like this is
100%.
gonna be really cool. And the thing is, like, I don't think there was research for this before this thing that we're making. So there's a lot of contents around the internet. There's pieces scattered around here and there, but there wasn't really ever, I think, a comprehensive course that tells like, okay, this is what you need to know in Capture One, and some things even beyond Capture One, the Capture One ecosystem, to become a successful digital tech. So that's something that we are very, very excited about. I just want to like rewind for a second to something that you said before, Mark. also like tapping in with some of the comments that I've seen coming in while we talked. So you said something before, like, so if you can set up a tethering station and for people to see and comment, like everybody leaves set knowing what's going on and happy with what's going on. I saw some comments before of someone who was saying that they work with actors and they don't really feel confident when starting up a tethering session, because then they don't really feel confident, like the actors are gonna like be not unhappy with the photos, or like actually this is a thing that I've come across multiple times. Not only I've seen it today, but like this is a comment that I see sometimes making for portrait photographers. Like they say, oh, I'm not really confident with my clients seeing the shots coming up. And I think it's a matter of confidence, that maybe they're gonna see some issues and you need to be kind of like secure that you can fix them as they come. So what would you tell to anyone who feels like that, like, oh, I'm not really confident that my clients on set can see what I'm shooting instead of me alone fixing it afterwards?
First of all, you should never have anybody sit down in front of your camera if, until you're pretty confident that what you're doing is going to be correct. Now, whether that is, having somebody to sit in for you and lighting test and whatever, but when your client or your actor sits down, the first frame that you take should look good. And that I think that comes from practice, and that comes from maybe doing a little research on the face that you're photographing beforehand. If somebody's got an extraordinarily large nose, then you're not going to put light on the side because whatever. If somebody's got deep eyes, then you're not going to light them from way above. So a little bit of research on the face and what lighting is going to work. But I think the bottom line is you might as well have them see. Look, if they're not going to like it when you take it, they're not going to like it when you finish. You're not going to work for them again anyway. So you might as well be in a position where you're showing them, and then you can, while you're working, if you know what I mean. Like, if let's go back. Can you still see this session?
I can go back to it, yes. Oh wait, I think we lost your sound again for a moment. Oh, still not coming back. Okay, now it seems to be back.
I think when I change here, it goes away. Is it gone again?
No, it's good now.
So I'm just trying to think of like first photos I've taken here. So, I'm just looking at different people. Like this is the first photo I've taken. And, she might not like it as the best photo ever of her, but she's not going to freak out, and I think you have to be at that stage. So, I'm just going to first pictures here. Like that's the first picture I took there. I mean, I think it's really important for you to be ready for that person to sit down. Okay, so that photo is terrible, right? But at least if he looks at it, he can see that it's terrible because of him, not because of me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not being funny, right? So it's like, open your eyes, dude. Thank you. You know what I mean? And I think just that preparation is really, really important. To think how you're going to light, to think what you're going to do, but also you have to inspire that confidence because, and this is what I was touching on earlier. If you show weakness, like if they go, "Oh my God, I hate that," and you go, "Why? You look great. What's wrong? Your hair looks great. Your skin everything looks great. Let's do a couple more and see where we're at." And then maybe at some point you can go, "So, oh, I see. You like to be photographed from this side better. Let's do some from that side." And as I say, if you're inspiring the confidence that it looks good, then everybody else in the room is going to go, "Yeah, it looks great." But if you're like, "Oh, sit," and start running over and changing lights and like panicking at your computer, and then whoever you're working with is going to feel like you're an idiot. And I think it's really, really important to be prepared. And be humble. I've definitely taken first pictures and go, "Wow, I really messed that up. Can I do another chance with this? Let me just make a couple of changes here. You know, and I think, you know, to just be honest and you have to inspire confidence. Listen, there's certain people that you're going to photograph that, you know, you got to remember, you're not a magician. You're a photographer. They look like they look. There's certain people that I photograph, and I believe I've taken the best photograph in the world, and go, oh, I hate it. All right, you can't win, right? There's nothing you can do that's going to make that person like a photograph of themselves. I think most people, you know, if your lighting's nice and you know you've got something going on between you and them, and, you know, it's just practice. I mean, if you've got very difficult people, then maybe you shouldn't show them. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
I guess it's about having different tools that you can use. Like you have like a toolkit, right? And some of the things in the toolkit are like camera angles or light angles or capture one adjustments are also like a valid kit and like a
Absolutely.
valid tool in your kit, right? So once you have this, even if the first shot goes completely wrong for whatever reason, whatever it's you or the person in front of the camera, which is also a possibility. I guess it's just like, and maybe it's the person in front of the camera's fault because they're not feeling okay, they're not feeling secure about themselves or whatever. And then it's also kind of up to you, as you said, like kind of create this
So
climate, make them feel confident about themselves. So it's also like another tool in the kit, I guess, right?
yeah, you're the photographer. If there's a problem, it's your fault. I mean that's it. You're running the show here. You're the one that wants to be the photographer. You're the one that wants to be the take the pictures. It's your fault. But listen, it's not like the monitor for me is facing them all the time. I mean, very often after I've taken, see, looks good. Okay, don't look at it. Look at me, and I turn it away. So you know, then we can do a session. And then sometimes I'll say, hey, this one's great. Come and have a look, and bring them over and involve them. And they go, oh no, no, it's good. Point with that. Okay, great. We're in good shape. Let's go back. So you know, it's about that, but it's a hard one. And you know, I don't mean to be hard on somebody, but if you're concerned about not showing somebody because it doesn't look good, then
No, we're missing your sound again. I don't know what's. We need to for the next one. We need to step up our sound. I think. Okay,
how's that?
we're good. We're good again.
Hello,
Yeah, we're good.
hello, hello. Yeah, as I said, it's a tough one. I mean, I think you have to take a leap of faith in your own work and inspire confidence.
Definitely. So,
And,
sorry. We're losing your sound again. I don't know. I don't know what is with it.
bad, you know, yeah, it's bad. You can
Okay.
see a little weird, it goes away, but I'm not doing anything. I
I
think you have to,
I believe you, and
hello,
you're not doing anything. Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
to inspire confidence, and I think that's part of it, and show no fear. Never show fear,
Fake it till
no
you make it,
fear.
right?
And if you're relying a lot on, you know, post production and so I'll make this, you know, I'll fix it in post, then you know, maybe tethering, you know, then maybe it's not photography anyway. I don't really know. I don't know.
Well, but I think that was a lot. That was a lot of super useful advice for everybody out there. I guess that people who join are generally portrait photographers who wanted to hear more about your process and what you do and the way you think about things and the way you approach a session. So that was super
Practice,
valuable information. Thank you so much for sharing.
practice, practice, practice. Listen, practice taking photos. Practice taking photos when you're not taking photos. That thing the other night, and I made 100 portraits, right, of different people in about 4 hours. Somebody came up to me and said, "Why are you doing this? This is crazy. You have to do this." And you know what? It's because it's practice. 100 people, 30 of whom I knew some, 70 I didn't, but I got to sit them down. I got to practice my bad jokes.
Sorry, we're losing you again, Mark. So I'm so sad, but like I think that we need to wrap it up because like anyways we're like out of time, kind of. So
I was just saying, practice, 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 practice.
yeah, definitely practice is the way to go. And like if you take photos and you start and they suck, then you just need to take more photos until they start sucking a little bit less, I guess.
And
I guess we all went through
I
phases, or like our first 5,000 photos probably are the worst. Like then the next 1,000 are probably going to be a little bit less bad, and then at some point maybe it'll become good. And then for some people that may be at 10,000 photos. For some other people it may be at 20,000 photos. So there's not like one single path to go about this, I guess.
I don't know. I think if I can take one reasonable photo out of every 10,000, I'm doing okay.
That's a pretty good ratio, I think. You need to keep it real. Right. So I think we have to wrap it up now. But like, thank you, Mark, so much. This has been so useful. I hope that people at home enjoyed it. Sorry about the sound difficulties. We'll work on that for the next time. We did test run this morning and it was all fine, but sometimes the gods of streaming are like that. So we're sorry about that, and we'll work on that for future sessions. So we're gonna say goodbye to Mark now. Thank you so much. Your experience is super valuable. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. Okay, so before we wrap it up for everybody, I just wanted to let you know that you can scan this code for all the upcoming live streams for Capture One, that you can be up to date of our new features and everything. And also we are going live regularly here on this YouTube channel for those of you who are on YouTube. So remember to subscribe if you want to get updates for our new videos and live streams. And that's pretty much it for today. I hope that it was useful. I thought it was super valuable, all of the things that Mark shared. So really happy to have him as a guest today. Thank you for joining, everybody. Have a good rest of your days, evenings, and see you next time. Bye.